regardless of your situation, there are 6 holistic movement pillars that you need to know how to implement well. And they are, number 1, drum roll, breathing and deep core control. So, how well you're breathing is a reflection of how well you're inviting energy and life force. Everything from mitochondrial health, nervous system regulation, pain resolution, fitness, aerobic capacity, structural stability and integrity while you're lifting weights or you're doing martial arts or climbing. Breathing is like the center of everything, you know, physical, emotional, psychological. And breathing and deep core control is really where your breath and its life force meets your body structure and its function. So if you're lifting repetitively on a job site, if you are training often, or if you're coaching or instructing other people on how to move, this fundamental area is going to help you develop a deeper movement skill, a deeper movement capacity, and also a much deeper self-awareness, like intimate self-awareness. Not like I'm intellectually aware of what I think my patterns are and how I do things, but like a direct, I know what I'm feeling, I'm connected, my conscious and unconscious are talking through the breath, which is the gateway between the seen and the unseen, and I'm moving well, I'm bracing well, I'm functioning well. The breath and the deep core control are so important in blood flow, which promotes nerve health, lymphatic flow, which detoxifies and helps inflammation clear from the body. This core part of us, which is constantly pulsating, which contains our internal organs, our viscera, is absolutely vital. Vital organs, right? Vital life force, vital energy, prana, chi, breath, and deep core control. It's the fundamental thing in yoga, it's the fundamental thing in qigong, it's the fundamental thing in weightlifting, athleticism of all kinds, vocalization. Honestly, this is the anchor. Okay, so we start with this. Number 1, breathing and deep core control. Now, pillar number 2 is load bearing and postural efficiency. So just to define what this is, load bearing is any time you're putting force through your body, okay? So when we talk about load bearing, we could talk about things like a squat. We could talk about different loads, multi-directional loads, like throwing something. That is a form of load bearing, although it's a little bit more complex. One of the most simple examples of load bearing would be the way you bear the load of your own structure. So when you stand, how well are you managing your own weight? How well are you organizing your bones and your tissues, and how well are you sensing yourself? So that's where load bearing meets postural efficiency. So postural efficiency doesn't just mean the posture of standing still and looking nice. If we look at you, do you look upright? Do you look poised, regal, relaxed? Of course, that is a part of it. But postural efficiency is also a dynamic thing. So if you're filling up a wheelbarrow, if you are moving a kettlebell, if you are wrestling or dancing, then is your posture opening you up for more good movement options? Is your posture potentiating freedom, or is your posture isolating you from the things you want to be able to do? It's making you feel smaller and more distant from the physical world you want to move with and engage with. So postural efficiency is both static, relative static, nothing is truly still, like meditation, seated meditation, standing meditation. And postural efficiency is also things like which positions are you moving through, and are you strong, supple, agile in those positions? Like you're fixing a kitchen tap pipe, or you are, putting someone in a headlock or escaping a headlock. This is all postural efficiency. How are you picking up your kids? What movement paths are you going through? What positions do you have access to and don't you have access to? So the last part of postural efficiency, because we might as well cover it, it's bridging into the more psycho-emotional stuff, is your emote. So there's also your postural identity. And when we talk about load bearing and posture from a more psycho-emotional framework, we can talk about load bearing as stress bearing. And we can talk about posture as your way of emoting or expressing in the world. So under stress, the load, how well do you express yourself, which is your postural identity. A lot of people, when they get stressed, they shrivel up and curl up, the neck gets tight, the shoulders get tight. They start to express poorly. They express movement poorly. They express conversation poorly. Their whole world closes in. So what is the posture that you can inhabit while you're working, writing, speaking, sitting over coffee with your hot date, which gives you more options and access to the world? So we've covered breathing and deep core control, and we've covered load bearing and postural efficiency. The third pillar is, gosh, my memory. The third pillar. Give me a second. We're covering a lot. Yes. Whole body connection and fascia. So what you can see is we've gone from life force to structure, and now we're talking about connecting that structure, whole body connection and fascia. So what does this mean? Okay, so a lot of people, when they're training, moving, working, are still applying the somewhat limited Western fitness mindset of particular muscles contracting. It's like we're moving and we're thinking of ourselves as this diagram with the quadriceps painted red. These are the working muscles for this machine. Or we're thinking about a hinge, and we're kind of abstract or intellectual, and we're not connected in our body fully. We're not just intuitively moving well and feeling everything from the feet to the fingertips to the spine to the breath. One body. Something that comes in with this fitness approach of looking at everything as isolated, fixating on muscles, fixating on joints, fixating on particular exercises, is there's a certain separation between your psyche and the movement that's happening, where we want you to just be in flow state. We want you to be so saturated in your body and the movement that nothing else is even there. You're moving effortlessly and everything's connecting by itself. You're not having to think, oh, how do I hit the tennis ball? What pectoral muscle? Or how do I do a handstand? Okay, cues, hands, balance, shoulders. You should just be able to move and express, and you should be able to focus on the task. And that comes from whole body connection and fascia. So how do we access this? How do we make it so when you're moving, when you're training, when you're in your yoga practice, when you're at work, you're leveraging your whole body intuitively? Well, we have to start training to feel the connections that run through the whole body. The fascia connects everything from the tongue all the way through to the soles of the feet. So there are actually these lines of connective tissue which link the whole body and link specific muscle groups. It's like a matrix. It's like a matrix of connective tissue. It's kind of like an internal web suit which sheaths muscles and contains everything and connects to the organs and through all of the deep to superficial layers of you. So this is like the internal sensory spider web. It's called the extracellular matrix. And this fascia gives you your body sense. Your sense of where you are in space, your sense of how tense or relaxed you are, and your fascia, or your whole body sense, is not directly trainable in the sense that to remodel this internal web, the amount of force you'd have to apply is astronomical, but it's kind of more alive and dynamic than that. So you can change the state of your fascia by changing the state of your psyche and emotions. So something which grounds you, meditation, yoga, living in integrity with your true needs and who you really are, that will bring you into an inner harmony which will affect the way your body moves and organizes. because what you're doing is you're moving out of resistance and you're moving into ease. That move from resistance to ease enables you to feel and use your body more effortlessly and intuitively. So this is why you'll often move better after meditating. This is why athletes use visualization. This is why you'll experience different ways of moving and sensing if you've used like a certain hallucinogen, which I'm not necessarily recommending. So when you're training, you want to feel into the lines of connection that go through your whole body. You don't just want to be thinking of biceps or pecs or lats. You want to be thinking of, okay, side body, front body, how can I connect the whole chain? Which comes not from forcing, but meditating, working inwards, as Paul Chek would say, sensing and listening and re-perceiving, fresh blank page each moment. Where are the connections in my body? So training then becomes very effective, but also very meditative. So that's fascia and whole body connection. The fourth pillar is session flow, program design, and tracking, okay? So session flow is how do you come into, implement, and come out of your sessions or movement practices. Program design is over a period of a month, 6 weeks, whatever. How are you organizing the frequency and duration of your sessions, the intensity and total work volume of your sessions? And how are you organizing your tracking? How are you making sure that you progressively increase everything with just the right dose? So I'm a fan in program design of minimum effective dose more than maximal recoverable volume. So if you think of minimal effective dose as not just a training strategy, but a life ethos, it means doing just enough and then coming back tomorrow and doing more and building momentum and developing holistically, where your training is aiding your life and it's not just drawing energy from other important things, making you a one-trick pony. You know, your creative projects, your family, all of these things matter as well. Unless you're a pro athlete who's just getting paid so much to train and everything else is taken care of, which most of us are not. So minimum effective dose in your program is doing enough to stimulate or elicit a change, but not doing so much that you can barely recover. Now, your session flow is when you come into your session prepared, centered, clear. What do I want to do? How's my body feeling? What do I need? And how am I going to do it? So that's the first part. That's like fueling the plane. And then as we begin to warm up for our session, we're preparing the nervous system, which controls and regulates the muscles and the breath. We're preparing the equipment. We're preparing our joints to go into certain ranges of motion. That's taking off. We're taking off the plane and we're getting ready for our main work, or the part that is going to be most stimulating and challenging about our practice or session. So you've fueled the plane, you've prepared to take off, you're taking off. Next thing is we hit the peak, okay? So these are the work sets. This is the stuff where if you're training strength, you're really applying as much force as you can. If it's power, you're trying to move fast. If it's endurance, you're hanging in there and breathing. If it is another quality, then you're working on that quality. So whatever the quality is or the goal is that you want from your training, you're really applying a clear, specific signal to adapt in that way. And then you rest between sets, or you have a couple periods of recovery and you go back and you hit another peak. And so that's the plane flying, navigating. Then you finish your session by ramping down, cooling down, settling the nervous system, going from a bit of fight or flight to some degree to rest and digest. So the breath slows, we usually recline or lie down, and then you're ready to chill out, zen out, rest in the endorphins and all of the happy chemicals that follow effort. And this gives you a beautiful emotional and neurological reward, which makes you want to come back and do more because you've come up and then you've come down. Now with session flow, most people just come up and they don't come down. They do a terrible job of down regulating and relaxing. And so you become really good at ramping up, but not very good at relaxing. And if you got better at relaxing, you'd get better at recovering, which would mean you'd get stronger more quickly, or whatever it is, more mobility more quickly, healing more quickly, all of that. And then you just track what you're doing in a diary. So I teach that stuff. I have a system for doing that stuff. But essentially just write down what you did, write down how many reps, how many sets, or how long, and how it felt, how hard it was out of 10. Just write it down, come back next time. What did I do? Ah, cool. Let's try add a little bit. It can be that simple. Or take a bit off if I did too much last time and then I got sick afterwards. So we've covered, to summarize, breath and deep core control, load bearing and postural efficiency. We're now covering, we covered the third one as well, which was whole body connection and fascia. We've covered the fourth one, which is session flow and program design. Now the fifth one is really important for the last one as well. So the fifth is emotional well-being. Now, emotional well-being means what patterns of thinking and what relationship with myself am I building over time? So, an example of poor emotional well-being or lack of emotional well-being would be someone who goes in and they're purely focused on an external outcome, a performance outcome at all costs. Whether it's detrimental for health, whether it's detrimental for happiness, whether it's detrimental for their relationships. Essentially, you're going so focused on this one aspect of your life, it's so unbalanced because you're probably coming at it through a sense of fear, urgency, or needing to prove something to people other than yourself, that you're pouring yourself in and it's actually causing a detrimental effect. When you're approaching your training practice with reverence for your human well-being, your emotional well-being, the training practice becomes life-giving and supportive. It becomes both potent in the skills and physical capacity you're developing for your job, for your sport, for your hobbies, activities, adventures, and supportive for the rest of your life. So it's this wonderful circular economy that supports you and the people who cross your path. If you're healthier, stronger, brighter, more enthusiastic about life, then your relationships will get better too, right? So everything, including work, starts to be drawn into this wonderful growth spiral, this cultivation, and that is emotional health. So everything we've covered so far will assist you in this emotional health if you implement it right. The breathing, the body sense, the connection of the whole body and the dropping into that state of being where you can function best. It's almost meditative training. Session design, making sure you respect your nervous system, fly the plane, land the plane. All of it is building emotional health. And when you stack this up over time, you create this wonderful life-affirming relationship with your training or practice, which means that you get steady incremental gains rather than surging and trying super hard and making great progress for a few weeks, but then crashing or getting injured or getting sick, which is simply your body's way of telling you, hey, you're not actually attuned to yourself. There's something you might be rushing or running away from here. If we address this at the psychological and the emotional level, as well as at the physical strategic level, then we're eliminating the key factors in illness and in pain. And that is the sixth pillar. So, pain resolution and holistic health. If you've addressed everything so far really well, you're probably not going to run into any severe pain and you'll probably heal most of your injuries. If you're not, maybe it's because there's a particularly bad injury, there's a particularly persistent pain, it's chronic, it's multifactorial, there's some other aspects of your life and health that you're not taking care of. And so this is where we come in and we clear up any of those things that are still lingering, that are preventing you from doing the first pillars. So pain resolution requires you to understand what pain is. Now, pain is both a signifier of acute damage and a threat perception alarm. So if you've damaged yourself in the past, you've hurt yourself really bad and it was kind of traumatic and it affected you quite deeply, then you're likely to be carrying the imprint of that pain, which is like a subconscious expectation that it could happen again. Another way to say this is you're walking around expecting pain because of what happened before. And that expectation of pain can then self-fulfill and make you more sensitive to anything which may be perceived as painful. So your alarm system is very sensitive. And then you go do a similar movement to the one that hurt you 5 years ago, and guess what? It feels like you've injured yourself again. But most often, you haven't. Although you're getting the same feeling in your body as the initial injury, you often haven't injured yourself again. Usually the damage heals between 3 to 6 months. And then what's left of that residual pain is more about your relationship with stress and your unconscious threat perception, which is like your nervous system's default state. Now, we've already addressed this with take off and land the plane. We've already addressed this with breathing. We've looked into the structural and anatomical parts with the load bearing, with the body connection and the way you're training and designing your sessions. Minimum effective dose, not pushing all the way to maximum recoverable volume. But now we're looking at, okay, how can we reshape your body and its expectations by understanding firstly what pain is, which we've just talked about, and then going into supporting yourself at every system of the body to help shift the stress, shift the inflammation, and shift the pain so that you're no longer in threat mode, you're actually in healing and enjoyment mode. There's much more on pain we could talk about, like scans don't always mean that there's a problem even if there's some damage, and then some people don't have any damage but they still have pain. So that's something we can go into in more detail at another time, or through an assessment one-to-one on my website, attuned.space. But holistic health, this part, means circadian rhythms. Are you aligning with sunrise and sunset? Are you taking off and landing the plane in your 24-hour cycle? Are you taking off and landing the plane in your monthly cycle, if you were a female, if you have a monthly cycle? Are you nourishing yourself, eating the right volume of food so that your stomach's not overburdened, the right level of nutrition, micronutrients in the food, so that the food you are eating, which takes some energy to digest, is actually making its way to support every system in your body? Is the diet balanced? Are you primarily eating whole foods and the best quality food that you can afford? Are you making sure that you settle before and after meals? Are you letting work drag into the evening way after dark? And if you are, how can you restructure your day so that your work aligns with the time of day when you're most mentally fresh and ends as you're winding down? What aids and implements can you bring in to help your biology? So holistic health isn't just about biohacking. It's not just about supplements. It's not just about looking at all these ways to optimize. It's also looking at your way of living. Are you living in alignment with the values that someone healthy would have? Or are you valuing things other than your health far above your health? Because, like, let's say you're working 16 hours a day and then you put on your blue light blockers at night to block out the blue light to help you sleep better, those glasses with the orange lens if you're not aware. That's like a little, that's something, and at some point that's going to help you, but it's not addressing the fact that you're working 16 hours a day, and that's going to take a toll on you, because if you're working 16, then you're not going to be sleeping 8 because you factor in time for meals and anything other than work, and now you're sleeping like 5 or 6, and then when are you exercising? When are you outdoors walking? When are you actually just being? So if your lifestyle and your values aren't conducive to cultivating deeper levels of health and vitality, then it's like you're depositing money from your Vital Force bank account and your body's healing ability every day, and you're not actually putting it back. So what's going to happen? You'll be able to do it for a while, but that pendulum is going to swing. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's a matter of how. Is it going to be an injury? Is it going to be a relational collapse? Is it going to be a diagnosis? if you're living life on the extremes, that's fine, but you're going to have to visit the other extreme too at some point, because this is the law of life. Everything is seasonal, everything is corresponding. Where there's a plus, there's a negative. Where there's a masculine, there's a feminine. Everything is polar, and everything has to remain in balance. We are an organism environment, and the more we align with the natural environment, the less intervention our body needs in the form of supplements, medication, invasive surgeries, and the whole mystery illness and chronic illness and, idiopathic symptoms, meaning doctors don't know where these are coming from symptoms. Those things kind of just sort themselves out. So, the 6 holistic pillars. Now you know what they are. The reason I have sorted my knowledge into these pillars is because I was having these conversations with everyone that I'm coaching, because if you're not addressing the groundwork, the low-hanging fruit, then there's no point in obsessing over which movement system you're doing, or front squat, back squat, or should I be doing keto or carnivore. Who fucking cares? If the whole picture is unbalanced, and if you're focusing on this one element, trying to optimize it, but the other 5 elements are kind of just non-existent, then your effort is being pissed into the wind. So this is an assessment that I guide people through. How it starts is, if you go to my website, you can submit a free questionnaire and then a free 15-minute call. So the questionnaire goes through your body, head to toe, lifestyle, work, training history, and you tell me exactly where you're at, what's working, what's not, and what you're trying to figure out and improve. From that, we book in a 15-minute call and we look at where you actually want to go with it. What are your goals? Short, medium, and long term? What kind of support do you need? What kind of resources, equipment, time, and energy do you need? What investment does there need to be from you to make these goals realistically possible within a matter of months? From that conversation, I'll have a pretty clear idea of whether you're sincere and on the right track and committed. And hopefully you are if you're booking the call, because it's free. Hopefully you've already identified that this is going to take some level of commitment over time. So if you're on the right track there, then you can book in for a one-to-one holistic assessment where we'll go through each of these 6 pillars and see how they apply to you. Where are you doing well? Where are you not doing so well? You probably have a sense of that already from this video. However, there is this innate human problem of the subjectivity bias. I can self-reflect to a point, but I don't know what I don't know. I can only reflect on my body state and what might be good for me based on my experiences so far. I can't reflect from that slightly external bird's eye viewpoint because I don't have access to it. I'm living in my body, and my sense of normal, I don't know whether it's balanced until I'm exposed to other things. So this is where I can guide you, because I've been coaching for a decade, and I started out in CrossFit and weightlifting, then I did gymnastics and yoga, and I've done a lot of different things, verging into the healing and holistic health realms, and even psycho-emotional guidance. I've had a lot of injuries. I've been strong. I've been sick. I've been mobile. I've been tense and relaxed. I've gone through a lot. I've worked with a bunch of teachers. So I'm there to give you a bit of a framework to say, hey, do you understand this specific thing about this pillar? Are you implementing this? When I say these words to you, are you familiar with that? Is that part of your existing practice? And we can then together get a clearer sense of where you're actually at, much more so than if you try to self-assess. So that's a paid session that usually goes for 60 to 90 minutes. And at the end, you'll have like a map of which areas do I need to focus on, why, and how am I going to begin? What are my key priorities in each area? Just something simple, actionable, and hopefully pretty potent. You can take that and then try and DIY it. You can be like, okay, cool, thank you very much. That's been awesome. I'm gonna try and implement this myself, or I'm gonna take this to someone to help me implement it because I wanna work locally with a trainer who lives in my suburb who I know is really good. Or if you want my help specifically, I have a program which goes into each of these pillars over a period of 8 weeks. So you get weekly live coaching with me. You get a program which involves daily practices plus 2 to 3 specific training sessions. And you get one-to-one support via Messenger. And there'll be other people doing the program at the same time. So you can experience the peer support and accountability aspect too. So it's a pretty comprehensive setup for you to drop in and start transforming with a whole support ecosystem. If you want to do that, if you do want to work with me after this one-to-one holistic assessment, then I'll wipe the price of the assessment from the program price. So you'll end up getting the whole holistic assessment for free. All of our first touch points, the questionnaire, the 15-minute call, and the 60 to 90-minute in-depth assessment is free. And then we'll just start getting results together in the program, which is called the Anti-Fragile Body. So if you like the sound of this, hopefully this has been really helpful anyway. But if you're like, oh, fuck yeah, okay, I see the process, there is an outline, there is a plan, I want to do this, can you help me? Then just head to the link in the description and I'll put the links to begin. This will be the 5th time I've run this specific program. Each time I run it, I tweak and change things based on the feedback from the people who I've worked with. I've had really good results in reducing pain, reducing tension, creating whole system healing for yoga teachers, movement practitioners and PTs, tradies, laborers, mums and dads, and even elite athletes. So we've got a really good cross section of feedback. You can read the testimonials on the website. You can do all that yourself if you're interested in the details of the program and the results it can get. But that's all for now. And maybe I'll speak to you soon. Peace.